Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lachey if it's your first time here, and if it's not your first time here, thank you so much for coming back. In today's video, we will be doing the books I read in January. I read 4 books and they were all really good, and we're going to talk about them. Thank you. Let's get into the video. I have my water and I have my book so I can stay on track. The first book that I read of the year was honestly so good. It's the reason that I have this shirt, to be honest, and it was A Dowry in Blood by S.T. Gibson. It is a book that I feel it was such a gothic and dark start. All of my reads for the past few years, the first read has been like one that for the rest of the year has like stuck with me. So I was kind of nervous that this one wouldn't be able to hold up to it, but I was wrong. This is my first book that I've read by this author, S.T. Gibson, and it will not be the last. I loved it. It's a very poetic, gothic, dark romance. So we start with a woman who we're meeting her on the day of her death, and she's a religious, pious woman. And so this darkness comes, and she thinks that this must be death, but also like asks if it's God. She's later turned into a vampire, and that's where we start. This is sort of a story on Dracula and his wives, and this is just the story of their love by his first wife, Constanta. It is so good. If you love the pomegranate theory, if you love any macabre sort of romance, if you love how cannibalism can be compared to love and endless need and desire, then this is a book for you. I loved it. It's not entirely a romance. We start off with her basically apologizing for murdering him. Well, not apologizing him. Taught his wives like not to apologize for anything. But we do start off with her essentially telling him their love story and what went wrong. I loved this story. It was deep in a way that even if you have something for years and years, there's this insecurity of if you could ever be enough to keep it. There is sort of the idea of praising love and people almost in a way of like God. It is a very good book, and I enjoyed all of it. Like, I ate it up. It was a really good read. I don't normally read things like that, and it kind of catapulted me into like a dark academia romance mood. We do end up having multiple wives. We never learn his name, which I honestly think is probably Dracula, but she doesn't remember her name from before he changed her, and he named her Constanta. And so, in fairness and equality, she says that she would not let him have a name. So if anyone ever found this book, then he's just called my lord. That's it. Constanta and the person who changes her stay together through a long time, and it's interesting because you felt like you were with them for centuries, and it also didn't drag on. So we'd gone through world wars and how that could benefit vampires, and also you can see the beauty in the regrowth and the upheaval and how all continued to be a cycle for these vampires. Actually get another bride, Magdalena, and she is the opposite of Constanta, and she's fiery and full of life, and each new person that the original creator takes on adds such a different dynamic. And again, if you love looking at love and romance at different angles, which is something my brain really enjoys, then you will love this book. I enjoyed it a lot. I love the characters. It's a very character forward book, although there is plot, but it's really just like what they go through as vampires and going from place to place and feeding. And she's very pious, and so her relationship with religion is interesting, with seeing all the ugliness in the world and even like loving someone who is a monster. It's on Kindle Unlimited, so I read it on there, and honestly I liked it enough to buy it, so highly recommend. I found this quote on Pinterest, and if I had one quote to me that also encompasses this love story that ends in tragedy, then I would say it is this. It says, "I worshipped the myth I made of you, but I am off my knees now." And that is it. Like, I also loved seeing how each thing, freedom, like in the name of love, each freedom that they would have or passion needed to be clipped for it to be like, I enjoyed it a lot. So that was my first read of the year. As for my second read of the year, they're all right here. I read 4 books total. It was from a good friend of mine whose name is Lee. Thank you, Lee, if you end up watching this. And it is The Priority of the Orange Tree. The Priority of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. It is clearly epic, and I'm so sad that it got stained, but it's winter and yeah, things happened. But this is a true epic fantasy. I'm not sure I'd ever read an epic fantasy before this. It was honestly really good. It took me a long time. And I loved it. I would read more things by this author. This is very much plot and character. So to give you a little synopsis of this, there is something that is like, what do they call him? There is an evil that is asleep. And there are beliefs and legends that connect pretty much the whole world, which I love because I personally believe that all things are connected and all people. So we start with some of our main characters, Tane and Iad, and they are in the east and the west of different places. These places that don't talk or communicate, and they are against each other because they have different beliefs to do with dragons. One side believes that they are evil and wicked because the evil one that has been slumbering for nearly 1,000 years is a dragon, and the other one knows that there are different kinds of dragons and actually treat them almost as deities or gods. Essentially, this 1,000 years of this evil is coming up, and there's a queen. There are very strong characters in this. I loved it. I love Queen Sabran. I love Nicholas Roos. He's an alchemist. I loved, honestly, what they did with religion in this. I love the idea that legends hold true. It is a very big book. So I don't really feel bad about 4 books. I mean, you shouldn't feel bad whenever, but normally I read more, and it's okay. If you want an epic fantasy, there isn't really found family. They're all on these different courses that end up coming together. Like, it's all connected. It's written really well. There's a little bit of sapphic love that I ate up. I loved it. I also feel like it's interesting as a woman because one of the ideas that is practiced is that there's a queen and there's a line of women who only have one daughter, and the idea that like it is a woman's duty to have a child to keep this great evil away. And like when this idea or lore started anyway, yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. It's massive. So I'm pretty proud of myself. This was my second book of the year, and yeah, it was great. My favorite character is probably Iad. I just think she's amazing. I love a spy. It has spies, it has pirates, it has a queen who you don't like but like end up respecting a lot. I didn't dislike her, but she's not very likable. She's a spoiled queen, but also there's a lot more to the idea of having to have a child, and that's all you're born to do. And I think that Samantha does this really well. And I actually liked some of their beliefs. Like, you have to take on someone. I think there's like a person of justice or the token of friendship or loyalty. And I liked those things. It's a very interesting, rich world. And for once, there weren't really many questions that I still have. There's like one kingdom that I really want to have answers about. It's really good. I believe this is the only one. There is a prequel that's out for this one, but this is like a singular book, which thank goodness. Imagine this being a duology, although I would still go. But for now, the story's over. It is sort of a happy for now, but I loved it, and it was a great second read, and an epic one at that. The next book that I read, completely different direction. I think I'm just like all of the reads for this month, minus the last one, were books that I don't even normally go for, but I've been kind of satisfied and like filled up by these books in a different way, which brings me to the next one. This third book of the month is called The Wedding People. It's by Allison Espach, and it is a very, honestly, a good winter read, or maybe if you're just a little bit sad. I went in blind, and essentially what happens is we are a character named Phoebe, and there's a huge wedding happening at a destination hotel. It's lovely and glorious, and she's dressed up and has no bags, and everyone at this hotel venue should be a part of the wedding party, and she is not. This is a very interesting like fiction book. It is about someone Phoebe, who's gone through like a lot in life and has been knocked down. This place was a dream for her. Like, she wanted to come here with her husband, and now she's like at the rock bottom of her life. She ends up in the elevator with the bride, who asks her like, oh, like what side of the family are you on? And they have a conversation. They're very raw with each other, which I enjoyed. Like, to find that one person where the bride usually wears a mask, like she notices the bride and she's walking with the whole party, but they're very kind of honest and see each other. And the bride finds out that she's not there for the wedding at all, which is upsetting anyway, because no one who wasn't in the family should be there. But more upsetting is that the bride is there to herself. I don't think I'm allowed to say that on YouTube, but she's there with plans to no longer live. And it goes from there. She obviously does live. That happens at the very beginning. And it's sort of like a refresh on life, a change in perspective, and even like being a part of other people's things, bringing you back to life. I love Phoebe. It's not a very sad or hard book to read. I felt inspired at the end and I wasn't depressed. So I think like I liked this book a lot. It's very poetic. I feel like if you like, I don't know, I always mention Emily Henry. I think it's just compulsive at this point. But if you wanted a sadder, sort of more fiction-y Emily Henry book, but it's also very original. I don't normally read these types of books. I really enjoyed myself. The Wedding People, and we end up being involved with the bride and stay because the wedding is like a week long, and they have this very, again, raw friendship, and she ends up getting swept into this whole wedding parties thing. We talk to the mother of the bride and all these different perspectives. It was very good, and there were so many little poetic parts. I really enjoyed this. I got this from a regular at my job because I work at a cafe, and I think I would library it. I liked how I did this. I wouldn't purchase it, whereas I would purchase A Dowry in Blood. I just loved it, and it's so cute. But I enjoyed it a lot. That was the third book of the month. And as for my last book, I went back to my roots, okay? And like I said at the beginning of the year, I really want to try to start reading more Black POC authors. And I'd seen this, so I bought it. This is The Immortal Dark, and it is a vampire school fantasy book. It is YA. It doesn't feel very YA, not that anything super crazy happens, but it doesn't feel very YA. This is a story about our main character. Her name is Kidan, and she is looking for her twin sister who has gone missing. She knows that there is this sort of like secret world of vampires, and they are from a rare bloodline in which a very old deal was struck for all vampires to only eat from the certain bloodline. They are not involved with this life or world, but because of mysterious things happening, she is pulled and called into this school. It is dark academia, true enemies to lovers. I mentioned this a lot when I was reading this. If you like The Cruel Prince, kind of has like a Once Upon a Broken Heart vibe, and also Legendborn, then this would be for you. She's just willing to do whatever it takes to get her twin back. There's a secret society. I love the vampires. There are like original rules and sort of like why people feed where they feed from and the laws that are taken. And I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't say our FMC is someone who she's so different than most of them. And our male main character, his name is like Sinuos Sagad. I called him Sagad because that one I know how to say. But again, it's just like I found it really enjoyable. I bought it. I don't regret buying it. I look forward to the second book. And honestly, just like, I feel like it'll be at least a trilogy. This, very good. They're all very good. Like, all of my reads, for the few that I did read, all were excellent and kind of a fresh read. And so anyway, those are the books that I read this month, and I really enjoyed all of them. Thank you so much for watching this video. And wherever you are in this world, I hope you're having a wonderful day, evening, night, and life. And I'll see you in the next video.